Well, little gamer, 2014 is now over and 2015 is now upon us. 2014 was pretty eventful for both of us, wasn't it? We gotta make sure that 2015 is gonna be pretty exciting as well. What better way than with a video game? It's gotta be epic though. High adventure, fearsome beasts, legendary weapons, colorful characters. I got it! Let's start the new year with a fantasy. A Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy IX is the oddball of the Final Fantasy franchise. Of the three released on the PlayStation 1, I've heard endless praise for Final Fantasy VII, and Final Fantasy VIII gets its fair share of attention as well. But almost nothing gets said about 9. Across the franchise, you have 10 and 12 each having strong fan bases. Okay, would you like to go? I've heard both praise and criticism alike for the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy, and of course, the legendary Final Fantasy VI. I did some research, and in terms of ratings, Final Fantasy IX consistently shines, getting extremely high ratings from both fans and critics alike. In fact, Final Fantasy IX is the most frequently recommended game in the franchise, aside from 6 from my friends who have played it. So how is it that a game with such high ratings doesn't get brought up in conversations about people's favorite Final Fantasy games, or even favorite RPGs? I picked up a copy a while back, and we're going to share our findings with you.
Before starting this review, you should know that my experience with the franchise is as follows. I knew practically nothing until I first played Kingdom Hearts and was introduced to some of the characters. My first real exposure was Final Fantasy XII, which I absolutely loved. From there I played 7, which was pretty cool and a lot of fun. Since then I have finished 1, 2, and 4, and have played some of 3, 6, and 10. Here I am now with 9. I mention this because I've noticed that a person's history with the Final Fantasy games greatly impacts their perspective and reception of other games in the series. The game takes a jump right in sort of approach, and it's revealed that your character, Zidane, who is a wisecracking, overconfident thief with a monkey tail, and the troop he is in are plotting to kidnap the Princess of Alexandria during a performance of a famous play. From there, the story unfolds very similarly to an epic fantasy tale, since you are then seeing the game from the perspective of a young lad named Vivi. Vivi is looking to see the play that Zidane and his troupe are putting on, thus setting up how these characters come together. The plot takes off following the events of the play, where you take control of a number of characters and you experience some very entertaining moments. Realizing that the Princess Garnet actually wants to be kidnapped, a pretty fun quick-time event where Zidane and another trooper play fight to garner audience favor, and taking control of Steiner, the captain of the Knights of Pluto, whose sole duty is to protect the princess. All of it comes together in a very fun way. The story introduction ends with you barely escaping and crashing into a forest. It's pretty clear within the first couple of hours that this game is going to be both epic and whimsical. Gameplay-wise, Final Fantasy IX is your pretty standard turn-based RPG battle system present in most Final Fantasy titles. When it's a character's turn, they have the opportunity to select an action, the action is performed, and you repeat until one side falls. Pretty simple and actually fairly easy to play while keeping an eye on Little Gamer, since it's not overly intense and for the most part leisurely. That being said, this has been the hardest game I have ever tried playing as a dad so far. It comes down to one thing: time. Everything in the game takes so much time. Cutscenes, plot development, the battles, boss battles even longer. Many save points are far apart time-wise, all of it requiring longer gameplay sessions. Another major contributing factor was the ability learning system. Abilities and spells are tied to specific equipment items. You then have to equip those abilities provided by the equipment items. After each battle, you earn ability points as well as experience points. These ability points go towards learning abilities, so you no longer need the item equipped to have it available. This wouldn't necessarily be a problem if the pacing of gaining new equipment was better. I regularly found upgraded equipment that I didn't want to equip yet because I was still learning the abilities from a current item. This created to what felt like unnecessary grinding, not related to battle stats, and delaying improving character stats to finish learning an ability.
I often found myself pausing the game to play, change diapers, prep bottles, and other important dadding activities. This is because at the time I couldn't save the game, and if I shut the game down, I would lose my progress. So basically, if I was doing anything other than grinding in the overmap, where I could save at any time, I was pausing the game. Final Fantasy IX exceeded my already high expectations. Final Fantasy IX exceeded my already high expectations. I found it to be extremely engrossing and entertaining. Square Enix definitely took everything they learned from the previous two titles and applied it to 9. Visually, the game is fantastic. It's definitely some of the best that the PS1 is capable of. They did a great job making it look like the characters belong on the pre-rendered backgrounds. Though at times things can look a little blurry with the lack of sharp edges found in the previous two titles, but it was rarely an issue in terms of enjoying the visuals. Of course, they continued to raise the bar in the pre-rendered cutscenes that the series has become known for since Final Fantasy VII. The end result is a sweeping epic. Gross. The end result is a sweeping epic that brings all of these characters together, each with their own motivations, to the heart of a deep plot. 9 is a fantasy epic, and as someone who typically prefers fantasy over sci-fi, I love it. This brings the game back to its series' roots. It's clearly inspired by early Final Fantasy games. The Black Mage character is a 3D representation of the Black Mage from the original Final Fantasy. All of those could be contributing factors to why 9 is missing from so many conversations. It is completely different from the previous two in terms of setting, genre, tone, and visuals. 7 and 8 were many people's first foray into the series, setting an expectation for industrial, future sci-fi settings featuring an almost bad boy, very cool main character. And when we come to 9, what you get is something very silly and whimsical, and your main character is a thief with a monkey tail, and you have all sorts of crazy things happening that are just so unlike anything from 7 or 8. Final Fantasy IX has now established itself as one of my favorite games of all time. They did a fantastic job of combining everything that was great about the newer games with everything that was great about the older titles. I highly recommend this rarely mentioned gem, and I hope my recent experience will motivate you to give this game a shot. I'm certain anyone who does will not be disappointed. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that 2015 is turning out as epic as you all hoped it would be. If you liked what you saw, like the video, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so you always know when new videos are coming out. You may have noticed the new little logo that showed up at the beginning of this episode, and that is due to Daddy Gamer becoming affiliated and becoming a feature on maroonersrock.com. Click the link below to see reviews of all sorts of nerdy, awesome, geeky stuff. Pretty much whatever the reviewers are geeking out about at the time, they write about. And not to mention, there's opportunities for some free stuff. Keep gaming, parents and kiddos. Have fun.